Today we're looking at another Liz Lockhead poem. This one's called Some Old Photographs. The learning intentions and success criteria are to understand and analyse the poem, and if you can explain what the poem is about and examine the language in the poem, then you've been successful. I just want you to spend a moment just having a look at these photographs here. They're pictures of older pictures of old Glasgow, and the idea behind this poem is one of looking back at photographs and the memories that they evoke. Maybe take a minute to sort of have a think about the old photographs that you have and how they make you feel before you read, and it might give you a bit more of a context. So in Lockhead's poem, the old photographs from the title are used as a catalyst to transport us back to a version of Glasgow from the past. She uses settings that you'll know, like Glasgow Central Station and George Square, to create this really atmospheric poem that really wants us to reflect on the elusiveness of the passage of time. So how difficult that is to pinpoint, and really how our memories change as a result, and how the past and the present are linked. Themes of the poem are the elusive nature of time and memory. It's in free verse and divided into 6 stanzas of unequal length. It's really one long sentence. You'll notice there's not an awful lot of punctuation in it, and Jean-Pont's used both within and between stanzas to create a very fluid, broken piece of writing. I think, again, to mirror the impression of just looking at a photograph and taking it all in at once. The sense that's mainly employed is sight, and the poem's really constructed to imitate the way our eyes would travel over photographs, racing on certain details before moving on. She uses synthesia to create effect in this poem, and the device uses one sense, and it's in this case sight, to evoke another, for example smell, and by the end of this poem all our senses have been employed. Both the language and the imagery create a very definite sense of time and place, and the overall mood of the poem is nostalgic and almost wistful. As always, we'll have an annotation key so you know which techniques you're picking out. Red's word choice, green's imagery and blue's structure. Weather evocative as scent, the romance of the dark storm clouds and big skies over the low wide river, of long shadows and longer shafts of light. So we start with the synesthesia trigger, and it really triggers the senses to create this vivid and powerful memory here. It's evocative as scent. It's almost like it brings up the same memory as when you smell something that you've smelled before. That's the point that she's trying to make here. And then we have the word choice of romance, which really foreshadows the glamorous depiction of the city in the later stanzas. It's quite strange to think of Glasgow as a romantic place. It's not something that really have romantic associations with, and that's maybe that sort of nostalgic idea coming in there. We then go to the idea of dark storm clouds. Really something dramatic is suggested in that, and in this picture that she's looking at, it's as if something or anything could happen at any moment, which adds a lot of excitement and a lot of drama to the poem. We then have the low wide river, and the word choice of low and wide here really suggests how significant this river is. It's really impressive. Okay, it takes up a lot of space in the city. Think about the way that the River Clyde has been viewed throughout history. It's really positive, really passionate, the way it's viewed and its links to the past industry. She's getting in lots of information about old Glasgow through her depiction of this poem here. We then have a pause here. I've drawn an arrow to a sort of blank space to show you that. The way this is set out is on purpose. It's the way that Lockhead actually sets their own poem out. The structure of that really stops. It makes you stop for a minute. It creates a pause and emphasises the length of the shadows and light behind elongating the line, so it juts out from the rest of the stanza. It's again to create a vivid picture in your mind here, and to sort of make you stop and think about what you're witnessing. Of smoke. Fabulous film noir stills of Central Station, of freezing fogs silvering the chilled, stilled parts of glamorous past, where drops on a rainmate are sequins in the lamplight, in the black and white. A film noir really dates the image here, the 1940s and 50s, okay, it's something of the past here. It's really evocative, really stylish and very, very classic. We've got the word choice of fabulous, which really reinforces this positive nostalgic impression. I don't know about you, but when I think of that, I think of sort of ladies with headscarves and cool sunglasses on, and that's the impression I think she's trying to give across here. Fabulous film is alliteration or assonance, sibilance, whatever it is you want to call it, and gives the language a really luxurious, rich quality, which is what she's trying to put across in her poem. We move on to this third line here with the word silvering. She creates this new word here in silvering to add to the feeling of richness, obviously precious metal, and that's what she's getting at here. The rest of the stanza concentrates on a metaphor here, where drops in a rainmate are sequins in the lamplight. It's quite humorous. You think of a rainmate, you think of your granny putting a rainmate on so they don't get their perm wet. But by sort of comparing them to sequins here in the lamplight, it's really creating this sort of sophisticated idea. Your young, still lovely mother laughs, the hem of her sundress whipped up by a wind on the beach before you were born. This bit's very short here, and I've written quite a lot for the first two lines here, because it's all the word choice that we need to consider. We have your young, still lovely mother, and it really shows us here that she's carefree, she's got a future ahead of her, emphasises that actually change happens over time, and that's that idea of being still lovely, suggesting maybe that perhaps the ageing process is set in now. She doesn't seem to have responsibilities, she's not worn down by age, by her role, and she seems really happy and really bubbly. You get a link here, the sundress being whipped up is really evocative of Marilyn Monroe, which represents this really glamorous view of the ordinary, bringing a bit of Hollywood to Glasgow. We have the idea of before you were born. That's an important idea in our poem because it's difficult for us to connect with the person here, to connect with the still lovely mother, as it's often different from what they are like now. If you perhaps think about old pictures that you've seen of your own mum or your own dad or someone, and then compare them to what you personally think about at the moment, about what they like, I bet it's a different impression that you've got. But it also is inviting you really to see what your family photographs and your own perception of your family were before you were born. All the dads in hats are making for Central at 5:05, and the snow and the rain and the sudden what a scorcher, and the smog, their belted dark overcoats white spattered by the starlings. The word dads has been pluralised to give the impression that their outfits are really similar and they're almost interchangeable. It's about this comfortable, familiar routine there. Making for Central, that's a familiar idea, a familiar place that you recognise. And we have this list of snow, rain, the smog, and it really shows the passage of time here. Obviously in Scotland we can often get all of these different weathers in the same day, but it's meant to show that all the different times of the year that they are going to work, but how it still kind of remains the same. We have the presence of the starlings here, which is if you think about the birds that you see round about George Square, it's going to connect the two locations. Starlings swarming in that perfect and permanent cloud above what was never really this photograph, but always all the passing now, a noise and stink and the smoky breath of George Square. We start with the metaphor of the starlings swarming. They're constantly moving and changing but maintaining the same approximate form. That's kind of like memories. If you think about at different times in your life, you'll look back on memories and photographs and you'll feel differently about them as you get older, and that's what she's suggesting here. We have this idea that it was never really this photograph but always all the passing now. Photographs can only capture a fleeting and brief moment. They can never truly convey the constant flux and change of time. This is quite a difficult idea, and it shows us that time in itself is impossible to grasp and to bottle as such. We have the noise and the stink, and in the final lines she's clearly referring, going back to something that she can rely on, which is her senses, what she can hear, what she can smell. It's a bit more reliable to her than a photograph of a moment. And she talks about the smoky breath of George Square, which is personification of George Square, making it seem really vibrant, dynamic and alive, which is really different to that frozen still moment. Wee boys, a duchess, bunting, there's a big launch on the Clyde and that boat is yet to sail. Our final stanza starts with a list, wee boys, a duchess and bunting. It celebrates a moment of excitement, okay, but there's obviously something going on down at the water. Think about the use of the wee boys as well. I haven't written this down, but it's very clear use of dialect, giving us a sense of place again. We bring back the idea of the Clyde as well, how important that is to Glaswegians, and the boat is yet to sail, so quite a tricky image to think about at the end, but it really sums up the poem nicely. It's both hopeful and quite sadly nostalgic, and the picture the boat was about to launch, but in the present the industry has died. So it's a contrast between what the picture shows and the feeling at the time and the way we feel looking back on it. If we were to look back on old pictures of the shipping industry in Glasgow, we'd maybe feel a bit of sadness, the fact that that's not kind of there anymore. But at the time they had no idea, and that's again that strange thing that we have between how things were, how we capture our memories and how we think about them now. Many years have actually passed from this day.